Everyone, thank you for tuning in to our monthly PowerBrew. We're going to be talking about gratitude at work, and we're here with Jill Hermes. She is our Interim Director of Corporate Solutions. So she'll be presenting in just a moment. My name is Michelle Shepard. I am the Client Support Services Coordinator here with Advantage C. And if you have joined us in the past, you'll notice we've got quite a different setup going on this morning. So we're constantly trying to improve our PowerBrew experience. So we'd love to get your thoughts and feedback on how today goes versus how it's gone in the past. So as always, you can certainly chime in the chat section there on the webinar, or follow up with an email, give us a call, and let us know what you think. So just a little bit about Advantage C. On your screen there, you'll see our 4 core services. This is truly just a small snapshot of what we can provide. You'll see training, facilitation, consulting, and assessments. There's a wide range of services that we offer. We tailor all of our training to fit your needs, so certainly give us a call. The number there is on your screen, and our email address. So we also offer a management development certificate here at Carroll. And it's an 11-course certificate that started in February and actually finishes up in June. So you can finish this certificate in just under 6 months. The next cohort will start in the beginning of September. So stay tuned for class information on that, and check our website. So today we have Jill Hermes here. As I mentioned before, she is the Interim Director of Corporate Solutions here with Advantage C. And we're super lucky to have her on our staff and to be able to present here today. Jill has over 20 years of experience. I'm going to read her. I work with her every day, but I have to read her bio. She's got over 20 years of experience in corporate recruiting and staffing. And she's got her Master of Arts in Human Sciences and an undergrad in Human Resource Management from college. And Jill is also an MBTI certified facilitator. So if you are with an organization that may have needs for that, certainly give us a call. Jill also works extensively with Leadership Carroll, which is a partnership between Carroll Community College and the Chamber of Commerce here in Carroll County. So if you have any questions on that or how to join that next year, by all means, give us a call. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jill. Thank you again for presenting. And as always, please submit questions during the webinar. We love these when they're interactive and engaging for you. So thank you again.
Thanks so much, Michelle. I'm really happy to be here in this role, and I'm going to grab my clicker here. And as Michelle said, we've got a different setup, so bear with us a little bit because it's all new. So if I'm looking in the wrong place or flipping the wrong thing, just let me know and I'll fix it, okay? So I'm really happy to be speaking on the topic of gratitude today. We're going to be looking at how to create a culture where gratitude can thrive, both personally and professionally, just so that we can be more successful overall. I love this picture. Gratitude changes the way we look at the world. And today, as we start this topic, it's really just a way of reframing the way we look at the world, kind of refreshing our lens. We could also say gratitude changes the way we look at our workplace, at our colleagues, at our staff, at our leadership, at our own style. It really is a new way, a new mindset. Now, my one concern with this slide was that people would say, oh, so Jill's just talking about looking at the world through rose-colored glasses today. And while I don't really have a problem with rose-colored glasses because I embrace optimism and a positive outlook, what we're talking about is going to dive a little deeper than simply the rose-colored glasses. So we're going to explore a couple of things. We're going to look at some definitions of gratitude, the benefits of having gratitude as a practice at work. We're going to look at what the research says, because there's quite a bit of research out there that is delving into gratitude. We're going to look at what is exactly just the practice of gratitude look like. We're going to talk about some tools that will help us develop gratitude. And we're also going to talk about how to incorporate gratitude into our leadership style. So today I want to start with setting the mood for gratitude. Isn't that good how that rhymes there? I want you to kind of take a deep breath, and I'm going to share a story with you. But as I share this story, I'm hoping I can ask you to multitask and think about how you define gratitude. I would really be curious to know if you're bold enough and generous enough to share your answers. Michelle will let me know if you've written in. It can be a word, a couple of sentences. There's no right or wrong answer for the purposes of this exercise. And if you're better at thinking about things in terms of what it's not, I welcome that. Because sometimes the best way to really get at the essence of something is to think about the opposite of it. So as I share this story with you, please think about that and share if you're willing. So Michelle just talked a little bit about Leadership Carroll and how that's a part of the role that I play here at Carroll Community College. And let me just read this quote to kind of start us out. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. So that's kind of the place I want to get to today is what does gratitude look like? How do we live it out? So back to Leadership Carroll. Leadership Carroll is a leadership program that helps us develop our skills in that area. And as we said, it's a collaborative partnership between Carroll Community College and the Chamber here in Carroll County. And we meet monthly, and we delve into areas that make this county run so beautifully. We learn about health and education and government and a whole variety of things. And at one recent monthly meeting, we had the opportunity to observe our judicial system at work. And we were in court, and we were observing, and the group was sitting in the back. You know, it's not a time for chit-chat when you're in court. It's a very somber and serious experience. And, you know, you're sitting in these kind of wooden pews and just listening to the exchanges going on between the judge and the individuals who are presenting their case or having the representation presented for them. And, you know, it's such a learning experience because as these individuals come in to the courtroom, you can see the heaviness on them, okay? Whether it's just a burden of shame or bad life choices or addiction or simply the weight of going through this experience. Literally, when people are up, you know, when it's their turn to speak to the judge, you can see in their posture and demeanor the weight of the situation. So we're all taking this in. And then at one point, the representative from the court calls a new name, and it's a new person's turn to approach the area to share her case. And there was something a little bit different happening here. This individual stood up and had really straight posture and actually held their head high, had a pep in their step as they approached the front. And the first words out of this individual's mouth were, "Judge, I'd like to thank you for giving me a second chance. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you." And it was something physical that happened at that point in time in that courtroom where the heaviness was lifted. The judge responded, and you could you could see that it surprised him, and he expressed his appreciation for the thank you. And there was this dialogue back and forth, and a plan was made on how to proceed. And the individual, you know, turned and walked back to her seat, and literally you could see the dignity that was there. And it's amazing to me the power of a thank you. So that was just something that really struck me, how much impact a thank you and gratitude can have. So I don't know if any of you were bold enough to share. Oh, okay. How can we capture that?
Well, we had one person write in just a quick statement that gratitude is joyful living.
Oh, joyful living. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Another thing that came up as far as what gratitude is not, or what it does not look like, It does not look like entitlement. So I think that's really interesting. If we are expecting certain things, then we never have the opportunity to feel gratitude. Okay, so if you have more ideas as we roll forward, please share them, because I'm learning about this as we move forward with you. So in addition to your responses, what does gratitude mean exactly? It's the acknowledgement of goodness. It's thankful and prompted to take an action to demonstrate that appreciation, right? It's a mindset, it's an attitude, and it's a discipline or practice that may or not be spiritually motivated. I'm going to take a drink. Please enjoy your coffee as we roll forward in this PowerBrew. What do you think of our setup so far?
So Jill, we did have somebody else write in another quick statement that gratitude is seeing the positives in the people around you.
Awesome. Gratitude is seeing the positive in the people around you. That's excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And it really kind of fits into this next slide. So Mary Oliver, I don't know how many of you are familiar with her, but she's a poet and an author, and she recently passed away. But she left us with just a legacy of wonderful writing and very insightful pieces. So let me just read her quote to you. Pay attention. Be astonished and tell about it. We're soaked in distractions. The world didn't have to be beautiful. We can and should think about that beauty and be grateful. So I love this quote because she entitled it Instructions for Living a Life. So as we proceed in our talk about gratitude, I feel like this quote gives us a really good clue to realize that gratitude has to be intentional. It doesn't happen by accident. And if we don't pay attention, if we don't stop to realize the good things about the people around us, it's not going to happen magically. So I wanted to share kind of some words to consider that I think about as the language of gratitude. And you might hear me say this one word several times today, so bear with me. Intentional. It's the first word there. Relish. Savor. Appreciate. Astonished and amazed. And pay attention. Really, when was the last time you were astonished and amazed? I feel like what happens sometimes is that in this world that we live in, we really have to make our minds up and have a mindset to be intentional. Otherwise, what happens is the pace of our multitasking world, our technology, there's like this constant tension that makes it difficult for us to pause and pay attention to things that enable us to feel and express gratitude. So let's just keep that in mind as we delve in further. When we think about the facets of gratitude, that first bullet on there says Jill's thank you note, but I'm going to return to that at the end. So if I forget to mention that, please let me know. But gratitude can be expressed either publicly or privately, and it's our job to know what's appropriate. Some people feel uncomfortable with certain ways of expressing gratitude, so we need to be sensitive to that. The element of surprise is a facet of gratitude because research shows that when we're not expecting something good and it happens, that our gratitude is that much deeper. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to be an excellent gratitude practicer. Recall with specificity. We're going to talk more about that. But basically, it's no surprise that the way to deepen the feelings of gratitude is to go deep, right? So instead of one sentence about gratitude in a gratitude journal or in a dialogue, you're going to want to expand on that and give some details to support it. That's pretty much the way everything in life is. And then finally, we're going to touch about gratitude preferences and how it relates to your personality. Michelle mentioned I'm a certified facilitator with the Myers-Briggs type indicator. It's a lot of words, isn't it? MBTI. Many of you have heard of that, where it talks about whether you're an extrovert or an introvert as far as your preferences several other dichotomies. But it's really interesting to see, just like many other facets of life, typically our personalities dictate how we practice gratitude. One of the exciting things in my mind about gratitude is that it affects our health, okay? Research has been done with folks in an MRI situation where they've been given gratitude exercises, and they can see the pathways in the brain light up. And that's exciting. That tells us that our mind actually has the power to change the makeup of our brain, that neuroplasticity that we all want to keep fresh. We all want to be forming healthy pathways in our mind as we age, especially, right? This isn't really a surprise to me, or probably to you, but it's nice to know that there is some science backing up the good parts about gratitude. So this is a little chart that just kind of simplifies it. Some of the other benefits are that as we practice gratitude and experience gratitude, our sleep actually improves. I don't know about you, but I like a good night's sleep, and it doesn't always happen. So that's something we can think about. Blood pressure can actually be decreased by practicing gratitude. Increases our energy levels. I'm all about increasing my energy level. Helps us live longer. So that's pretty interesting, I think. I like this next slide because it really shows how our whole being can be impacted by gratitude. So our social, our psychological, and our physical being, if you will, if we're kind of thinking of ourselves like that, can be impacted in a positive way through gratitude. So this particular slide is published by the Greater Good Science Center, and I highly recommend, if you have any interest at all in gratitude or simply bettering yourself in this area, go to their website. UC Davis, Dr. Emmons, Dr. Robert Emmons is kind of I would call him the father of research in contemporary gratitude studies. I've got his books here, and certainly there's no shortage of research out there, but I would say he's a really great place to start. He's my go-to for this information. I love this slide because interrupt anxiety with gratitude. Maybe it's because this is an area that I struggle with. Anxiety is when we worry about the future and all the what ifs. What if this happens? What if this goes wrong? What about this? What about that? And there's nothing wrong with thinking things through, but we can kind of get in a negative cycle. Gratitude, however, kind of reins us back in and says, hey, let's live in the present. Let's look at what's going great right now. Let's pay attention to the positive attributes of my colleagues, of myself, and of the work that we're doing. And it just adds a little bit of balance. If you would happen to struggle with that like I do, I kind of think of it as another piece of the scaffolding to kind of hang these ideas about gratitude on. So again, the additional benefits for our health are the sleep, and actually gratitude can decrease depression and fatigue. And here's a study that I really enjoyed, cardiac patients. So folks who had a cardiac event and were in a rehab process actually had better outcomes when they were given gratitude exercises to practice. I think that's really powerful. It tells us that this is important when our physical body responds to something like this. And then finally, practicing gratitude, expressing gratitude specifically, can lower inflammation in our bodies. And as we age, folks, inflammation is kind of like a mother of many evils as far as the pain we feel in our joints and other kinds of things. So, good stuff to think about. I'm going to kind of change gears a little bit here and talk about why gratitude at work specifically. So we talked about what it is. And so let's just look at this slide. So research has shown that people who frequently experience gratitude are happier, less depressed or anxious, more empathic, and more helpful than those without a grateful disposition. And these characteristics actually line up really well with people who are defined as engaged employees. So here's the thing. In our workplaces, we strive for employees who are engaged, who are helpful, who support others, who are passionate. So I'm going to use this term engagement as kind of a bridge to go from talking about gratitude in our personal life to gratitude in our professional life, if that makes sense to you. And then that last sentence, however, less than half of organizations have any kind of formalized engagement initiatives or programs in place. That speaks to that intentional word, meaning if we want our employees to be engaged, it's probably not going to happen by accident. We're going to have to be intentional about creating programs that foster and cultivate that engagement. So let me just talk about specifically what I mean by engagement. It's a psychological state within each individual, and it is a business matter because it affects our bottom line, okay? Studies show over and over again that it affects our profitability, our productivity, morale, retention, all those things that we want to keep in check. And as I just said, a formalized approach is recommended as far as fostering that engagement. So this next bullet, start by finding out what you don't know with an employee survey. So I really, if you think about taking the temperature in your organization to determine where are we with employment engagement, you typically want to use a survey. That's something Advantage Seek can help you with. So we're happy if you want to contact us, we can customize a survey to help you determine where do you stand in that area and how do we make it better? How do we build on the things that are already working well? And then finally, that last bullet, focus on the how, not the what. Excuse me. This is really good news for those of us without a huge budget, because I feel like in the past we've looked at companies like Facebook and Google, and we've looked at the what's that increase engagement in their organizations, like the arcades for their employees and their gorgeous healthy lunches and the smoothie bars. Well, that's all great. I'd love to have that. But typically, organizations don't have the resources to provide that all the time. So what's great about this last bullet is that research shows us that employees actually respond better to the how, meaning how are they communicated with? How do they feel at work? How do they feel appreciated, and is their gratitude present over the fancy what's? So that's something to think about as well. Kind of makes it more realistic for most of us, I think. So as we're thinking about gratitude at work, it doesn't matter whether you work in an educational setting or corporate setting, whether you're out in the field in a construction site or a medical site. When we talk about gratitude, it's an even playing field, and it can apply to all of us. Oftentimes, we kind of hold gratitude, and we only practice it around evaluation time. And it's certainly a good time to practice gratitude and tell employees what we appreciate about them and why we are grateful for them. But let's not limit it to employee evaluations, okay? We want to create lots of opportunities in the workplace for gratitude to be expressed and demonstrated and felt, both downline and upline. So we want to have informal opportunities, and that can be a lunch chat, that can be a one-on-one meeting, that can be a shout out. And then formalized opportunities are great as well. You just have to be intentional. If you remember, many of you might remember the old-fashioned employee appreciation picnic. Actually got together on a weekend and you brought your families and you played, I don't know, badminton or volleyball, and you had burgers and hot dogs, and that camaraderie was formed and rapport was built, and people felt appreciated. It was a good thing. That might not fit the culture for your organization, but you can determine what does fit the culture. Award ceremonies and celebrations, those are key, right? And then this last mark here, training and development, this is really critical. When you invest in your staff and let them know, I believe in you so much that I'm going to spend money and time to allow you to enhance your skill set and then give you some more responsibility to apply that skill set, to me, that is really a great way to showcase both appreciation and gratitude. And I guess that makes sense as to why I work for VNHC, right? Because we're all about staff development and making your staff their very best. But that can really apply to so many different areas. And then the great thing about this, as we create this environment in our organization, it spills over into those that we serve. So whether it's our students, if we're an educational facility, our patients in a healthcare facility, our clients, if we're in banking, insurance, it doesn't matter. The people that we serve benefit when we have created this culture that practices gratitude. And then, of course, the goal is to make sure that those folks feel that appreciation as well. We want them to keep coming back. We want them to keep choosing us. Okay. Tips and tools. So I've talked about gratitude, and I've talked about a few things, but let me just go through some kind of specifics here. I mentioned specificity before. The number one way to make yourself more gratitude focused in all the research is gratitude journaling. Old-fashioned, having a notebook, handwriting about things for which we're grateful. I'm going to just fess up right now and say, I struggle with this. I want to do it. I want to do it better, but it is an area where I need to improve. So I feel like it's just a habit that if you're serious about gratitude, that we need to form. That means you're going to have a notebook available maybe on your night table, at your home, definitely in your desk, maybe in your car. So that's the best way. The second best way is to use technology and to actually record it in some fashion. Type it out, speak it, record it. Some way of capturing the things for which you're grateful so that you can go back then and reflect on, okay? But I'll just say it again, the most powerful pathways are formed through old-fashioned handwriting. And then that 5 sentences on one thing, okay? So I need to really work on developing that. But don't let that intimidate you or keep you from starting, because I have seen the benefits in my own life and I have not gone this deep with it, okay? I've done the speaking and recording because that's easy for me in my 37-minute commute, right? So do what works for you, keeping in mind the things that are best practices. I want to turn the corner here and speak about leadership and gratitude, because I feel very strongly that as leaders, gratitude is an attribute that we should be thinking about. And many of us, whether it's at home or in our professional life, have leadership roles. They can be formal titles or they can be informal roles. Many people at work might not have a title as a leader, but we look to them as kind of leading the crew, right? Setting the tone. You know who they are. They know who they are. So typically, when we think about traits that leaders have, we think about people that are confident, strong, passionate, persuasive. As I talk about these, perhaps you can even think of people that portray these. I want to add another attribute to that leadership list: gratitude focused. And I think it's important because research shows us that gratitude is linked to accomplishing our goals. And as leaders, that's what we want. We want to bring out the best in our teams. We want to reach our goals, exceed our goals, help people set meaningful goals. And if we've created a culture of gratitude, that increases our opportunities and our chances of meeting those goals. And it elicits behavior in both the people receiving the gratitude and expressing it. I'm going to pause here for a minute because I want to go back to when I was talking about the different ways at work we can express our gratitude and appreciation. And I just want to ask you once again to put on your thinking caps with me. Is there something you've experienced that's really had an impact on you? I don't care what it is at work, a luncheon, an award ceremony, something informal or kind of last minute, where you said, wow, I really felt appreciated and it made a difference. Or I was able to make someone else realize how much we appreciate them and how grateful we are for their role. So if you're, once again, if you're bold enough, if you're generous enough to write in, I would really love to have that information, and Michelle will let me know if there's stuff to share with you about that. So when we think about wearing our gratitude hat as leaders, it can't just be like, gratitude today. It has to be something, an entire approach in our life, and not just an emotion be turned off and on. And again, we have to exercise this muscle, or we're going to set ourselves up for failure. It really is like being fit physically. I can want to be healthy and fit, but I'm not just going to wake up one morning and realize, wow, I lost that 10 pounds, right? It requires a plan and a strategy and certain disciplines to make it happen. And gratitude is much the same way. And guess what? At first, it might feel a little awkward. It's not part of your routine. I know that's what I experienced for myself. It felt uneasy or forced because I guess I always thought, well, you're either thankful or you're not. But we can actually train ourselves to be more mindful of becoming more aware of gratitude, and not only how to feel it, but then how to express it. And that has a great snowball effect. Appreciation matters, and actually gratitude is required for the best emotional health. We've talked about that, for decreasing depression and anxiety, increasing energy, productivity. So when we think about being leaders and including gratitude in our leadership style, we can gain the trust of our staff by practicing gratitude. Most of us want to have a staff that trusts us. We have to be authentic. But it not only gains the trust, it gains their effort. So that's why it's key in helping us meet our goals. It also has an inverse relationship with anger and some of the negative emotions that are tied to that. Gratitude can help reduce negative tendencies such as micromanagement, authoritarianism, and rudeness. Now, most of us don't like to be micromanaged, nor do we like to micromanage others. It's one of those things that kind of creeps in sometimes. And what we find is if we can replace some of that with components of gratitude, it'll have a positive effect in the workplace. One of the ways I think this is displayed pretty clearly is in social media. So when one negative thing happens, when an angry post is made, right, typically there are some comments that are equally angry and kind of aggressive, right, that follow, and it tends to be this kind of spiraling out of control tweet or Facebook post or whatever. I'm sure you've all experienced that. And then it can kind of just linger and hover, and it's destroyed relationships. However, on the flip side of that, if you notice some more positive posts than social media, typically conjure up more positive reactions, right? And another spiral is created. Now, the human condition, the negative spiral tends to be more powerful, which means we simply have to work harder with the positive things such as gratitude. Something to think about. I remember back in the day in psychology class, we learned about how anger begets anger. There used to be this idea that if we had an opportunity to kind of like get our anger out by like, if you remember those like punching dolls, they were, I don't know, I had a clown. You can actually punch it. That then you'd feel better. You'd feel like a release and the anger would go away. Well, you know what? That's not what happens actually. You actually become more aggressive. So the way to combat anger is not with more anger, but by practicing a positive attribute such as gratitude. So that was a little trip down memory lane for you all. So you might be thinking, what in the world got Jill hooked on this whole gratitude thing? It seems a little out there. Well, I wanted to share a couple things with you. So I want to go back to that slide where I said I was going to share about a thank you. Let me just take a sip here. So maybe some of you will be prompted to share some experience as well. I welcome that. So back in the day when I was in undergraduate school, I received a partial scholarship to put towards my tuition. And I was so tickled with this opportunity. I didn't expect it, so I was surprised. So once again, that gratitude ran even deeper. So when I received this scholarship, I went over to that proper office on campus and I said, you know, how do I thank this person? Who are, I don't even know what a private donor meant, you know, at that point in time. And what does this mean? Is this someone I can express my gratitude to? And I was given an address and I was told, you know, this individual is very generous. They're a philanthropist in the area that gives lots of money to liberal arts schools and to people in need, and just very generous individual. So I got my little thank you note, my little pen, and I wrote a very simple thank you so much. I greatly appreciate this. You know, you won't ever know the difference it makes in my life. Set it off. I didn't really think about it. Well, several weeks later, when I went to check my mail, I had a new piece of mail. And I didn't recognize the handwriting, and quite frankly, it was a little hard to read, like a little shaky. Well, this philanthropist, this individual, had responded to my thank you note. And he took the time to write me a personal note in his own handwriting. And he said, I so appreciate you writing me that thank you. You are the first person who has ever written to thank me for a scholarship. That was astounding to me. This, you know, powerful individual in our community, who was quite elderly at this point, who had given to so many people, no one took the time to thank him. And at that time, it was just kind of like a seed planted in me that started me thinking, gratitude is powerful. And it impacts those who feel it, who express it, and who receive it. And it just always stayed with me. So in my previous role as a director at a career center, my students would kind of tease me because I would really get on them. Like every interview you have, every opportunity you have to talk with someone, you write a thank you note. I don't care if it's an email, a text, or a note, but you express your gratitude. So they would give me a hard time about that. But all that to say, it was always kind of something in my makeup, right? Michelle spoke earlier in the introduction about continuous improvement. We want to make our set better for you and freshen it up. We want to make the information we deliver to you meaningful. And I guess to me, in my own personal life and professional life, I want to find things to build on to make me more significant and productive in the lives of others. So over this past year and a half of my own life, I had this challenge that happened, something I wasn't expecting, something that really took the wind out of my sails and quite frankly, threw me for a loop. And I imagine some of you have experienced something similar, whether it's having to do with your career or finances or relationships at home or whatever, where it was something really powerful and somewhat negative, and you look for ways to resolve it in a positive manner. And the thing is, oftentimes with these challenges, they're not short-lived, right? You know it's not going to be resolved next week. You know it's going to go on for a period of time. And it becomes almost chronic. And for me, and maybe for you, it was starting to spill over into all the areas of my life. And I wasn't really functioning in a really positive way and the way I dealt with it. So I was looking for these new tools. And something sparked in me and said, hey, you know how important gratitude is. You can apply it in this situation. So I started to do that. I started to read every book I could, listen to every TED Talk available on gratitude. And while I have a long way to go, even the little bit that I learned and started practicing it, even in a daily way, really helped me get through that situation. And here's the thing, is it doesn't necessarily mean that the outcome to the challenge is going to be perfect or beautiful. It means that you're going to be able to deal with the way you react to the things along the way, celebrate the small victories, actually pay attention to, and be mindful and intentional of uncovering opportunities for gratitude, because they don't just pop up. Sometimes you really have to look for them. So that's how I got started on this gratitude journey. And then I began to see, hey, I can apply this to my professional life, and maybe it can help others too. So that's my full circle of gratitude. If you feel like your organization might benefit from some kind of gratitude exercise or presentation, or as Michelle talked about before, how you might want to incorporate the Myers-Briggs type indicator with that, simply to bring out the best in your folks, to find out how to increase teamwork and your productivity and the way people communicate, kind of make it the best possible. We would love to talk about that with you. Talk about how we can customize it to your specific organization. I thank you so much for your time and attention today. If anyone has any questions, please chime in. If not, you can contact us here if you think of them later. And I wanted to talk a little bit about next month, or if Michelle wanted to speak to that.
You can go ahead, Jill.
Okay. So many of you know Mike Mannion, and he is going to be here next month to do a pop-up PowerBrew, which is a really cool concept. Here, I forgot to change my slide. There you go. There he is, right there. So it's going to be on May 7th, so that's a little earlier, so mark your calendars now. He's going to be talking about safe meetings. This is a quote from Mike. Organizations with unique, high-performing cultures such as Google, Navy SEALs, charter schools, focus on creating environments where people feel psychologically safe and experience a strong sense of belonging. Gratitude helps drive both. So you can see how this was a good foundation to kind of launch Mike's talk next month. So you're not going to want to miss that. Is there anything else we need to touch base on?
I don't think so. I know that our next PowerBrew isn't the third Tuesday of the month, but we wanted to get this topic out there and in front of you. And I think this topic is actually something that Mike Mannion does so well here every time he teaches. And I think that's why he gets to the root of whatever's going on in an organization. So, mark that on your calendars. We'll have some marketing coming out about that in the next couple weeks as well.
Great. Yeah, Mike has a great delivering style, and he's also an instructor here and teaches some of those classes that Michelle referred to earlier. If you haven't had the opportunity to take a class from Mike, I really recommend it. It's a great experience, and as Michelle said, it gets to the root of the problem, and he's so gifted at creating exercises that push us out of our comfort zone but don't terrify us, right? And just help us get better, whatever skill we're working on. All right, well, I think we finished up a little early, but I hope that as you leave today, that your mindset is opened to just considering gratitude as your lens, right? Whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whether you're working on a new project that you're thinking, oh, this just isn't something I want to work on, put that lens of gratitude on and see if it can help you. Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in.